Hey Algebras, I wanted to do a couple of videos just to kind of review with you of what's going on here. So when I'm graphing quadratics, there's several ways I can graph my quadratics. The first way is I can use a table. And if I use a table, then there are 7 steps. I have to see if it's in standard form. Is it written correctly? I have to check if it opens up or down. Is the a value just 1 or a positive number? Then it opens up. It's a negative number, then it opens down. I find my axis of symmetry, negative b over 2a. And then in order to find the rest of my vertex, I plug in that x value into the equation and solve for y. Now that I have my vertex, I graph around it, putting my vertex point in the middle, and I do 2 points that are greater, 2 and 3, and 2 points that are smaller, 0 and negative 1. I'm going to start with 0 because it is the y-intercept. If I plug in 0 for x, I end up eliminating all those x's, and I end up having the y value be negative 3. I know that reflects to the 2, so I also have 2 points down. Now I'm going to solve for 3. I plug 3 into the equation, and I get 3 squared minus 6 minus 3, which is 9 minus 9, which is 0. Now I can finally graph. When I graph my parabola, and then make sure I do my points, and I label my vertex, and then I go ahead and draw my line of my axis of symmetry, make sure I point out what that is. Then you have a U-try, you can give it a whirl, and then check your answer, so pause the video. When I'm graphing using factoring, I first factor to find my x values. So here I'm just using x box, and then I have to solve when they equal 0, therefore my x's are going to be 3 and negative 1. Once I have that, I just need to have a vertex because I already have 2 good points. X is going to be 3, 0, and x is going to be negative 1, 0. So now I just need one more point. So I use my vertex, my negative b over 2a, and solve for that, which is 1. And then I plug in to solve for my y, and I get negative 4. Now I have 3 good points, and I can graph. And my graph looks just like the one that we graphed before. Go ahead and do a U-try. Pause the video, and check your answers. Now the last way we're going to graph is using the vertex form. When I use the vertex form, the vertex is right there before me. I can see that the vertex is right there because it is the opposite value of that x, and the y is right here. So now I have my vertex. I just go ahead and plug in my vertex, do a point above and a point below, and graph my 2 good points. So because the vertex form is so much nicer, how can I get it into this? First, let's give you a U-try. You try this, pause the video, and then see how you do. So when I want to get my standard form to vertex form, I have to do that by completing the square. I can see that because right here, it appears to be a completed square right there. So this is the form I want to get it into, where my k is represented the y value and my h is the x value of the vertex. So the vertex name has a special name for its x and y values. H is x and k is y. Now, having a function and getting it into vertex form, I want to complete the square. The first thing I need to do is separate that negative 3 away from it because I just want to deal with the first two values to complete the square. On here, I'm going to cut 2 in half and square it. And if I add 1 to one side, I have to add 1 to the other side. But I have to solve for y, which means I need to subtract the 1 as well. So I could just skip that step and know that if I add x, that 1 to one side, I have to subtract it from that negative 3. Now I have my vertex in vertex form, and I could graph that. You try. Convert this to vertex form. Pause the video. Okay, let's see how you did. Did you separate the x and then know that you have to complete the square? And whatever you add to one side, you also have to then subtract it from the y to solve for y. So then you have x plus 5 squared minus 17, and then your vertex is the opposite value of h, and the k is the constant negative 17. Here's another you try. Give it a whirl, pause the video. Okay, let's see how you did. Did you add 9 to complete your square and then subtract the 9 from 11, giving you negative 20? Then you have to say your vertex, which is the opposite value of negative 3, which would be 3, and then my k is negative 20. How do I convert when the value is greater or less than 1? When this is the situation, I have to first factor out the a value, because when I'm completing this square, I cannot have the a value be greater or less than 1. So when I factor it out, then I can complete my square. I just have to remember that now that 1 is multiplied by 3 and added to the y value, which means I have to subtract it from my 8. Now I have it in vertex form, and I can write the vertex. Let's have you try it. Pause the video and then check your work. Well, I hope this helps. Make sure you get the homework turned in and practice this.